What does it take to cut a ship into two halves? To strip down and reassemble a giant plane? To overhaul the world's longest high-speed train? It takes hundreds of professionals, expertise, precision, and courage.
It's never been done before.
Pushing everyone to the limit.
It is surely a challenging job.
Now on Mega Pit Stops. Every 6 years, at the very least, every plane has to clear its schedule for an important job. It's a major inspection, known as an IL check. How much work does this involve? 25,000 man-hours. It's one of the most complicated pit stops in the world. Lufthansa Technik Malta is an expert in aircraft maintenance. Day one of a huge new project, the Airbus A330-300, official name Kilo Romeo. It's over 63 meters long and almost 17 meters tall. Kilo Romeo is used for medium to long-haul routes. The Airbus's wingspan, a good 60 meters. And it travels at a maximum speed of 875 kilometers per hour. The complete overhaul takes 40 days. During this time, a team will dismantle the entire cabin, which includes the seats, kitchens, toilets, wall panels, and floors. No matter how small the component, the inspection is thorough. Clean, check, and repair or replace. Once everything is outside, the team checks the airplane's structure for damage, right down to the last screw, inside and out. At the same time, engineers perform any repairs needed on the wings, landing flaps, and engines. Lufthansa Technik Malta checks the safety of fleets from several different airlines. At the start of any new inspection, project manager Daryl Heyman can never be sure what kinds of problems he'll discover and whether he will manage to stay on schedule.
Once we have everything stripped down, we kick into an inspection phase, and from the inspection phase we will know exactly what we're looking at. It is surely a challenging job.
The first big challenge is getting the gigantic aircraft into the hangar. Engineer Patrick McAuliffe takes command. The blue work platforms in the hangar are carefully adjusted to Kilo Romeo's dimensions. The 200 million euro jet has to park right in the middle of them. Routine for the 29-year-old engineer. Even so, he needs every spare pair of hands in the hangar.
You will need to be like, you have like 10,000 eyes on each person, because a slight crack it costs thousands of dollars. Stay one left, one right. Everything is clear? Okay, good. So, we will be inside in a few minutes. Step one.
Despite different nationalities and noise from the turbines, communication has to be as simple and clear as possible. Patrick's instructions are standard marshalling signs. Just like parking a car, reverse parking a plane relies on turning the wheel at precisely the right time. The entrance to the hangar is a critical point. From here on, Flagman Patrick only has minimal tolerance on either side. Only if Kilo Romeo stays on the yellow line in the middle will it fit into the hangar.
Very close, less than half a meter, you know, so it gets very close.
Patrick spots a problem. Kilo Romeo is moving at a slight angle, next to the guiding line.
A little bit misaligned. It needs to be a little bit to the right.
The pit stop is on a very tight schedule. In just 40 days, the Airbus has to be ready for safe takeoff, or so says the flight plan. Any delay here in the hangar means potential cancellations for the airline and its passengers.
Everything is according to plan, so hopefully we'll continue and finalize this towing procedure.
The wings are approaching the platforms. They did it. The plane is in position.
As it is. Brakes on.
Good job, boys!
All the area had been clear. Nothing had gone wrong, so everything was perfect today also. Another job done.
So the first successful milestone of this layover.
Exactly, first milestone. The hangering.
A complete overhaul in 40 days. This requires 5 teams: cabin, engines, cargo hold, electronics, and structures.
So good morning, everyone. We're day 1 of 40 for the next incoming project on Kilo Romeo. The clock is ticking to achieve the 40 days. We need to start now, so let's go and let's do the job and make it in time.
The only way to stick to the schedule is for all departments to work at the same time. The engines team starts by removing the turbines. To do this, Patrick has to prop and lift the aircraft. This allows the lift truck to fit underneath the turbines. To lift the plane, he positions 3 jacks, like the ones you find in a car workshop, but much, much bigger. He places one at the nose of the Airbus and 2 under the wings.
We check that the nose landing gear jackets, everything is okay. The lock nuts are tight, so if there is any movement, the nut will be in place. Kevin, we start lifting the nose. 1.3. 0.2.
Patrick starts by lifting the aircraft's nose. Then, the team slides the jacks under the wings.
We're aligning the main landing gear jack that goes inside the jacking adapter.
Kilo Romeo weighs 170 tons. If the jacks aren't positioned correctly, they'll slip and pierce through the wings.
Alberto, Andre, and we have Adrian on the nose jack that they will need to be synchronized, because right now the aircraft is stable, it's 0 degrees, and we're gonna lift all the 3 jacks together. Alberto, Andre, mains up.
Both operators have to lift the wings so they remain exactly parallel. If one side rises quicker than the other, the plane will tip over. The massive lifting platform elevates Kilo Romeo 7.5 meters up from the ground. Its 170 tons are balanced perfectly between the 3 points. Now, the lift truck can fit under the engine.
A lot of job had been done, and a lot of more pending work to be done later on this check.
10,000 individual job cards, 25,000 man-hours. Project manager Daryl has already performed general overhauls on over 100 different planes, and yet every plane brings new challenges.
So in the next couple of days, we'll be seeing a different aircraft. So yes, it will be interesting for one to see from when the aircraft arrives into our facility, into the hangar, how the aesthetic of the maintenance event changes.
To stick to the plane's delivery deadline, Daryl has to keep his eye on all 5 teams at the same time, both outside and inside the plane. James Sheed is in charge of Team Cabin. His job, completely dismantle the interior inspect it for faults, and then place everything back where it belongs.
Carpet, guys. So upholstery, we start removing all carpet. How much time do you need to? At least 2 hours should be finished, the carpet. So then we need all cove lights in area 7, sidewalls and dados to be removed today.
James coordinates 15 tradesmen and engineers. All of them work in sync, which is why they truly depend on each other. A single delay, and the entire pit stop schedule would fall behind.
Everything is happening at the same time. I have to go around the cabin all the time to see that everything is going smoothly and no problems are being held from an area to be removed. That's why it's a little bit complicated.
Before things can progress, the seats have to be removed. That is Jason Shikluna's job. The more comfortable the seat, the heavier and bulkier it is. A business class seat takes around 6 times longer to remove than an economy seat.
You have this here. Okay. Just have to go. Move it back more. Okay, like that. Good. Mainly, this is the back shell. All power supplies are here. This will be connected to the seat, where for every seat they have actuators, motors. Mainly, they have 5. Every motor for each movement of the seat.
Around 750,000 passengers have traveled the world on these seats. The main thing they leave behind? Dirt.
I'm always dreaming to find maybe a diamond, you know.
Jason has just 3 days to remove the 238 seats. His seat shop is one of 13 workshops inside the hangar. Each department performs all their own repairs on site, which saves an incredible amount of time. Lufthansa Technik doesn't just look after Lufthansa aircraft. Airlines from all over the world bring their planes here for a general overhaul. For Jason, this means ever-changing kinds of seats, along with their various defects.
You know, every seat is a jigsaw puzzle. So every part of the seat has a number. If you need to, if you have something broken, you have to check on manuals, check that part number. Then you will order and replace any parts that are damaged.
An essential part of every check is a thorough safety assessment of the seats and belts. Jason only replaces the upholstery where necessary. Inside the hangar, the teams continue dismantling Kilo Romeo. 70 people work simultaneously on every part of the plane. The structures team is inspecting the Airbus's steel frame. Every single bit of corrosion must be identified. Patrick and his team are still removing the turbines. An assessment of the hoisting under the engines is a mandatory part of every IL check.
We need to work simultaneously, all together. Everyone will be take his chain blocks and everyone works together.
To access the engine hoisting, Patrick's team must first remove the turbines. Four chain hooks help them out. Using synchronized levering movements, they slowly lower the engine. Once complete, the engineers can finally access the hoisting. This is what holds the engine to the wing. It has to be checked every 6 years.
So this is the forward inboard mount. This big attachment, as you see. It will get attached later on to the fan frame, and also on the other side, still the same.
The mechanics use levers to lift the truck and its struts.
All together.
The lift truck uses the same principle as a forklift.
And
keep going.
Lower down.
Keep going.
All right. 1, 2, 1, 2.
Once the truck has reached the right height, Patrick detaches the engine from the wing.
1, 2.
Finished. The struts are now at the same height as the turbines. The team detaches the connection to the wing. Now the lift truck is holding the full weight of the engine, 6 tons. One of the plane's heaviest components. Success for Patrick.
So another engine had been removed, another job is done. Everything went pretty well, everything is okay.
Another task for the mega pit stop, checking the outer shell for damage caused by bad weather. Even the tiniest bit of damage from hail or lightning can pose a safety threat. At the same time, under the plane, mechanics are bleeding the fuel tank, so they can inspect it from the inside later on. In the cabin, things are still being dismantled. Project manager Daryl is supervising over 500 individual job cards just for the interior.
Working in maintenance, aircraft maintenance, it is something which keeps you always on the edge, always concentrated. You need to be always concentrated, and it's a nice and interesting job that makes you feel proud if you're working in it.
Daryl and his team make sure that passengers can feel safe. That is always the #1 priority, even more important than costs or the pit stop schedule. After 750,000 passengers, a thorough clean is well and truly in order. The seats have all been removed and are in the workshop. The cabin team is now removing all the carpets, flooring, and cladding from inside the plane. Only now can Team Boss James start concentrating on the trickiest part of the disassembly process. The equipment in the middle, in other words, the kitchen and toilets, are blocking the workers' path.
Mainly the items that are repairable is the lamination here, which you can see several damages which can be repaired, and new lamination will be installed.
The term monuments refers to components that are assembled as a group.
This does not split, so it's very heavy to get it out. So you have to be exactly with the door level, and you need at least 4 to 5 guys because it's really heavy. So first lift a bit up and go backwards. Stop there. So now we have to tilt it forward and slowly, slowly. Lower it down from the front. Okay, so let's go straight. And we have to tilt up. Yes, tilt, it's all right. Lower it a bit. It's okay at the top. All right. Yeah. So go forward to the door. Lower it a bit down more. So I have to go straight like this. Go straight. Wait.
The part is stuck, which means it is blocking the door for other workers. James needs a speedy solution, otherwise they'll fall off schedule. The teams adapt their workflow on a daily basis. Every delay is carefully logged.
Each morning or a day before, normally we schedule what work needs to be done, and every job has its job card number and task related to it.
Each page describes one of the 10,000 job cards in total, from a simple cleaning job to a repair that affects the plane's safety. Like the inspection of the engine hoisting, for instance. It attaches the turbine to the wing. Any problem could spell catastrophic consequences. Andre is replacing a very specific bearing. This is also a mandatory process in the IL check.
It takes all the loads, literally. It transfers the loads through the pylon, engine, pylon, and wing structure. And this is the job of this bearing. We use this tool when the bearing is literally stuck. It's so hard. There's so much torque in it. You will never loosen it.
Andre has to drill into the bearing's mount to replace it.
The material is so strong that the bits wear out quite easily.
The connection is incredibly strong. The ring is mounted to the wing. The entire engine's 6-ton weight will later hang off this single tiny component. This connection must never break, no matter how strong the wind, turbulence, or vibrations.
Finally, yeah? This little thing is what holds everything together. It keeps engines flying. Yeah, it's a bastard.
Meanwhile, on top of the wing, the cabin team still has a problem with one of the monuments. Cabin boss James and his team have dismantled aircraft from all over the world. When you're dealing with so many different components, it's impossible to know every detail. Take these plastic bumpers, for instance.
Sometimes you forget about these things. It's a small item that sometimes the manual does not tell you to remove that bumper, but to get out from the door, it's really exact height. So it's just a few millimeters.
Finally, the module fits through the door and is now on its way for repairs in the neighboring shop. The team has nearly finished dismantling the cabin. Next step, finding the defects.
It's getting a bit exhausting for everyone, but this is the phase when you need to be fully concentrated, because any mistake at this stage can jeopardize the T-80.
DOD, that's the planned date of delivery for the repaired plane. In 33 days. So far, the team has been right on schedule. The cabin is empty. The structures team now inspects the ceiling, walls, and floor for damage. Biggest risk in the interior? Moisture, and the resulting threat of corrosion. Outside, the team is facing their most challenging dismantling task. One of the flap track bearings is faulty. This calls for some heavy machinery. After all, the flap alone is over 5 meters long and weighs 300 kilograms. Engineer Andrei Spiteri is responsible for this job.
The hardest part is not to take it out, is to make sure we keep it clear away from the aircraft and not to damage or not to hurt anyone.
These huge components influence the airflow to make the plane ascend, descend, or maintain its course. During takeoff, the flaps boost lift. For landing, they increase air resistance. During the inspection, they demand Andre and his team's full attention.
More. Go. Stretch. Okay. Yeah.
The crane has been calibrated precisely to the weight of the flap.
What we're doing now is we're adjusting the hoist so we can have it centered. So when we actually remove and take the weight of the flap, we don't have any surprises, like all the weight goes in the aircraft or moves suddenly out and throws us out of the docking. I think it's enough, huh? That's tight, Ruben.
The center of gravity must be exactly in the middle. Otherwise, the landing flap could suddenly tip over.
Oh, should be good. Thank you.
The cables are taut. Andre releases the flap from the wing.
Slowly.
Okay.
Okay. Just leave it like that. Okay. Oh. It's moving. Okay, okay, it's coming out. It's coming out by hand. Oh. Okay.
Now, the flap is held only by the crane. A dangerous balancing act.
We need to push up and Johnny, pull it.
The biggest risk? That the flap could hit the fuselage and cause millions worth of damage.
Rope. Oh, rope.
Oh,
All right.
be careful of the docking at the back.
Suddenly, the giant part threatens to slip. While some members of the team focus on the big parts during this mega pit stop, others take care of the tiny details. Shaya Ray Kalea from the structures team checks everything that holds the Airbus together. For example, thousands of screws. This is just one of the many jobs that are invisible to passengers, but essential to their safety during a flight.
That responsibility is big because I will just think if my family is riding that plane, I have to make sure that it's safe.
The screws are the smallest components in the aircraft, but they are also the most common. It is cheaper to clean and repair each individual screw than it is to just replace them all. Shaya also repairs the metallic components in the cabin and is one of only 5 women working in the entire hangar.
What I like most about my job is that I am being challenged every day. I am challenged to do my best and push my limit.
Shaya's job? To repair Kilo Romeo's shell. During a flight, it's what protects passengers from temperatures of minus 50 degrees outside the plane. Shaya has been fascinated by flying since she was a child. As a woman working in a male-dominated environment, she also sees herself as something of a pioneer.
Don't be afraid to get your hands dirty. Don't be afraid to be one of the boys, and don't be afraid to conquer the world's, the men's world. Because if they can do it, why can't we?
Outside the cabin, Andre's team is still struggling with the 300-kilo landing flap.
Up. Jib up. Go.
The workers have to lift the flap up and pull it away from the plane at the same time.
More, more. Hand over the rope. Watch the harnesses. Watch the harnesses.
They've done it. This final component marks the end of the dismantling phase.
Luckily it's out. Happily out. Yeah, job done for today.
Day 19 of the mega pit stop in Malta. The 5 departments of cabin, engines, cargo hold, electronics, and structures work at different paces. The engines team is completing its repairs. The turbines have been checked, repaired, and signed off. The cabin team has removed and numbered all of the parts. Next step, start repairs in the seat shop. For 238 seats, this means 15 days of work. The seat rows are set up exactly as they are in the cabin. Every seat has its assigned place, as the customer expects the plane to be essentially the same as before the pit stop, except that it's been overhauled. Jason starts by taking inventory.
We will check, first of all, the cushions that are in good condition, or if any are damaged or worn, we will need to replace. Then we will start checking functional of the seat.
An assessment of the basic frame and seat belts are mandatory jobs for this check interval. What's more, the airline has opted to have the seats fully reconditioned to make sure its passengers are comfortable.
What's the condition of the cushions?
Cushions, some have some damages. They're worn. And regarding the bottom covers, we've got about 60 stained.
The team cleans and repairs anything worth saving. For larger scale damage, Jason orders specific spare parts. When dealing with so many different airlines, keeping every spare part in stock for every aircraft model is impossible. The new landing flap has arrived at the hangar. Unfortunately, it's the wrong color for the airline. Solution? Paint it over. This means a delay to the schedule.
It puts more pressure on us to deliver the actual milestone on time. So we delayed it maybe like 2 days, the installation, since it was originally planned.
A 2-day delay. It's a major setback for the hangar crew. After all, the next flight has already been scheduled for Kilo Romeo. The shop team tries to win back some of the time lost. 102 specialists polish the components to return their original shine. They do this for every part that passengers come into contact with, including the wall panels, windows, ceiling lights, and toilets. If properly maintained, this Airbus is able to complete over 80,000 flight hours. There's just a week to go before the plane is delivered to the airline. While the cabin team is well underway with repairs, the hangar crew is still looking for faults.
We kick into the inspection phase, where all inspections are carried out throughout the aircraft and any defects are identified, parts ordered, and items need to be rectified, basically.
Current status: the engines are still in very good condition after 6 years. However, there is still one dangerous job left to do: cleaning and checking the fuel tank, a job that risks suffocation or explosion. And the electricians still need to check mile upon mile of cabling. The fuel tanks are located in the wings and at the bottom of the fuselage. If they contain any foreign bodies, these could rub against the tank and cause corrosion. And corrosion could cause fuel loss. Cleaning is therefore a hugely important job, but unfortunately not a particularly safe one.
This is the vacuum pump that works with air, because obviously you cannot work with electricity in the fuel tank.
Well, so basically, Piney, I'm going in to do an inspection. All right, so let's do this.
The area that Ruben is climbing into is normally filled to the top with fuel. That's over 200,000 liters. Fumes, darkness, cramped conditions. You have to be a special person to take on this kind of job.
It's not fair. I'm planning to get fat, you know, because it's not fair. It's always me, you know.
You have to get fat.
It's not nice being the skinny guy inside the engines.
You have to get fat and get old.
Yeah. So yeah, I have to inspect everything, every corner, every rivet, every high lock, everything, correct assembly, because the fuel tank is quite critical. So yeah, I have to make sure it's as clean as possible. Chris.
Yes?
I'm moving on to the inner tank. Can you please hand me the vacuum, please?
Coming.
Ruben is also on the lookout for cracks and leaks. It doesn't take long for such defects to expand. The mechanic has to inspect a total of 6 fuel tanks, the smallest of which is just 30 centimeters tall. One thing Ruben always has with him on board: a strange feeling in his stomach.
I find it quite scary, to be honest, because, yeah, if something happens.
It could be that there are fumes. He could trip. He could slip. And then, obviously, he will need help. If he's by himself, no one can help him. But if there's a colleague outside, he can either call for help or go in and help him. The worst thing to do is to actually panic. Ruben,
yeah.
Is everything okay?
Yep, everything good.
Okay.
And then, suddenly, Ruben finds a problem.
These little tiny metal shavings could cause a problem everywhere in the aircraft, because they could be a potential for corrosion, and we don't want corrosion on an aircraft.
Ruben soaks up the splitters with his vacuum pump. In total, he needs 2 days for inspecting and cleaning all of the tanks, completely in the dark. At the same time, one story up, cabin boss James is right on schedule. His team has finished checking the interior. Now it's time for everything to go back in. There's just one team still working on the inspection phase. The electrics team, which has to check 400 kilometers of cable. They all come together in the avionics bay, Kilo Romeo's control center. It is located directly under the pilot seat. This is where it all comes together: entertainment systems, smoke detectors, autopilot. Declan de Jong checks each and every connection, a job that requires total concentration.
You have to be alert all the time. You have to watch what you're doing so you don't trip and bump your head or fall or break anything.
Declan performs the first of 3 checks. 2 more electricians will then come along behind. This is because job cards directly related to passenger safety are always checked by more than 1 expert.
And it's basically checking all the wires for damages, for burning marks, shaving, and that kind of stuff. So like this wire is, see, it's a bit loose all the way. So first we do is clean with the brush and some alcohol, make it clean.
Loose wires vibrate during the flight and could generate friction, a safety risk that shouldn't be underestimated.
Now what could happen, say if there was like a cable broken or damaged and it could make like sparks, it could give in the cockpit an indication that there's a fault somewhere. And maybe in the worst case scenario, it could spark and cause smoke or fire. Worst case scenario.
The last few days of the mega pit stop. Daryl's team now has to put the plane back together again as quickly as possible.
We're hitting the final phase, milestones all on track, and we've got 374 defects still open. You're doing a brilliant job. Keep focused and come on, let's do it, okay? Let's go.
Back at Jason's seat shop, the new seats have arrived.
New seats. Smells good, eh? It's like when you buy a new car.
Jason is installing 16 brand new seats. The rest have been reconditioned. The seating is arranged right down to the last centimeter. The issue here is one that passengers take very seriously: legroom. The rows can't be too close together, nor can they be too far apart. If just one row is in the wrong place, this can trigger a chain reaction. It could end up that a whole row of seats doesn't fit into the plane anymore.
You have to move everything, all seats or cables. Hopefully, it doesn't happen.
There's another problem. The paneling is still missing in some areas. For Jason and his seats, that means stop. Project manager Daryl is tense. During the installation phase in particular, it is essential to make sure all teams are perfectly in sync. Otherwise, his team may miss the upcoming deadline.
At the moment, although it's a bit quiet, teams are a bit frustrated to a certain extent that we could be in a better situation than we currently are.
Everything is happening at once in the cabin. The paneling is finished, the seats are going in, and the bulky monuments have to go back in too.
Slowly, guys. Oh, oh. You need to go forward. Raise. Lower. Hey, you're right.
Even the smallest scratch means remove the element again, repair the defect, then reinstall.
Yes, okay. More up, yeah. More up, yeah. All right. More up.
Now it's time to see whether James can deliver on time.
To reach the target, you need to be concentrated fully on the project. Sometimes, if you make a wrong decision, like you install something before another one, you might end up removing it.
A huge puzzle made up of millions and millions of pieces. Every piece has been checked for safety and repaired. From the tiniest screw right through to the skin, slowly but surely, Kilo Romeo gets its outer shell back. Shia Ray and the structures team are making up for lost time.
Now that we're on the installation facing already, it's very fulfilling because that means we did the job fine, yeah.
It's a precision landing for head engineer Andre, too.
It's like your house, you know? You're always here, coming to work, making sure it's safe to fly, fitting everything in place like a puzzle. Yeah. And at the end, it's just satisfying just to see it go.
Last problem area to address, the cabin. But things have finally started moving here too. The monuments and seats are all back in position.
Yeah, it's satisfaction. After all that work, you know, removal, inspections, rectifications on seat, bring them like as new again.
Day 39. Kilo Romeo looks brand new, both outside and inside. Project manager Daryl has done it, and 1 day ahead of schedule. The airline's inspectors will perform one last check of the entire aircraft before the Airbus A330 can take a test flight. The plane can't start transporting passengers again until these two steps are out of the way. 10,000 job cards, 25,000 man-hours. Kilo Romeo is back and ready to start safely transporting thousands of passengers to their destinations.
Very exhausted. Very exhausted. But again, this is the most rewarding day when we see the project coming to an end. A satisfied customer, which is important, and most importantly, a well-maintained aircraft with a high level of quality for the safety of our passengers.
For Daryl, the next project is already waiting in the wings. He and his 170-person team are the unsung heroes of aviation. The crew here in Malta makes sure that air travel remains the safest mode of transportation.